Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm
Ooh.
here with Harry Davis. He's
Hey
going
guys.
bowling at Savannah College of Art and Design. My first question is, who inspired you to start bowling?
Well, there wasn't actually a person that inspired me to start bowling. It was more of the a TV show. I actually saw bowling on Elmo for the first time when I was about 4 years old, and it was a segment that they did. I think it was about like the machines and how they reset bowling pins, and I thought that was really fascinating. So I then I told my parents about it, and they found a bowling alley that was really close to my house, and pretty much the rest is history. I fell in love, and that really grew my inspiration for the sport.
hmm Uh, how did you compete in bowling events? Because I know our school didn't have a bowling team.
Yeah, so if you're looking to compete around the state in bowling, there's a lot of local tours that do tournaments. So usually once or twice a month, you get a couple competitions. There's two tours that go around, and so you're pretty much competing about twice a month at different bowling centers around the state. Uh, my season, I think it went in okay. One of the tours, I bowled 12 competitions and I won seven of them, which was good. The other tour, I bowled, I think about that same amount, and I did win one time on that tour. So it really, different types of tours, different competitions. But I think my season went okay. My season doesn't technically end until nationals, which is in a month and a half, and that'll be kind of the telltale sign, I think, for me to see how my season will go.
What was the recruitment process like for you?
Yeah, so the recruitment process for bowling is for men's bowling specifically is different in a lot of ways than some other sports. Usually there's the big national tournament, which I already mentioned earlier. It's called Junior Gold, and it gathers about 4 to 5 thousand kids. It's a pretty large tournament, and that's usually where most people start the college recruitment process. There's a lot of colleges that are there just to see what everyone's got. And that's kind of how I started, and met a couple colleges there. And then it's usually for recruitment, uh, you have to be the one to initiate a lot of the conversation. It's not a whole lot of like there's like scouts at like local tournaments. I've seen it happen a couple times, but it's not super common in bowling. You really have to be the driving factor if you want to go bowl in college, which is true with most sports, but I think it's a little bit stronger with bowling.
Uh, what are some of your favorite memories you have from your high school bowling career?
Um, I think I think my favorite memory from my high school bowling career was getting sixth at nationals last year. There was about 1,300 like really talented kids in my division, and I was it's a tournament that I've always wanted to do well in, and I had that opportunity. I was really close to making the TV show. I fell a little bit short at the end there, but just the entire experience. And then in the finals, I got to have some people from my state who bowled the national tournament come and cheer me on, and that was just an experience that I'll never forget.
What are you most looking forward to in college?
I'm just really looking forward to be meet new people and just be in a completely different environment. Um, just because I feel like the really with any smaller school or private school, it can feel like you have a really tiny bubble around you and you don't really know what's going on in life. And so I'm just really grateful to go to a bigger school with just so many people from really around the globe that are going to be there. Uh, and I'm just really excited to meet new people and just experience a little bit more to life.
What are some of your hobbies outside of bowling?
Uh, So my main hobby outside of bowling is Ninja Warrior. So it's a little bit very different from bowling, in the fact that bowling's more of a skill sport and Ninja Warrior is more of a strength sport. But I feel like there's a lot of parallels because I think in both sports you got to have really strong mental toughness because really one minor mental error and you can go from falling on an obstacle or missing a spare in bowling. So I think there's a lot of similarities, but that's Ninja Warrior and obstacles is kind of my main hobby outside of bowling.
How do you first off like practice for bowling tournaments?
Yeah, so I'm really, really grateful that I have a training facility close to my house called Off Broadway Bowling Academy. And what they do is it's about a 4-lane center built in this guy's backyard, and it's got a lot of technology and video cameras and data. So usually when I'm practicing, I'm looking at my form from a lot of different angles, trying to see what can I tighten up or what can I make better. And I also have the data that tracks every shot, so it tracks where it is on the lane and how accurate I'm being. And I also get to bowl on tough conditions, so I can bowl on all types of oil patterns, as they call it. So I'm bowling on all types of designs of oil that they put on the lane. Some yield higher scores and some yield lower scores. So I'm always training on any different possibility, any different type of shot I need to make, so that when I'm bowling a tournament, I've already practiced it 1,000 times and I'm ready for it.
How do you recover from these practices? I know bowling balls are pretty heavy and
Yeah, so bowling is not, I guess, as much of a physical sport as like track or rugby or whoever else you've been talking to in these podcasts. But uh usually just with any sport, I'm always stretching. Like I always stretch before and after just to try to make sure that I'm being mobile and nothing feels weird because bowling in and of itself is a really, really weird concept because you're doing a lot of unnatural things with your body by throwing a rock really, really hard. So you just got to make sure that your body's willing to take it because it's not something it's designed to do. So just yeah, I usually stretch, always trying to eat a good diet, eat a lot, just trying to make sure that I'm at my best because tournaments can be really long, and so I need to have a lot of stamina, and so that's where the stretching and food comes in.
who are some of your role models?
Oh, that's a really good question. I look up to a lot of uh pro bowlers who like to bend the rules a little bit. So there's this guy, his name is Jason Belmonte. He's a pro bowler, and everyone ever since the start of bowling, everyone's only bowled with one hand, and he was the first to take his thumb out of the bowling ball and put both hands on the bowling ball instead. And there's just a lot of times in his career where he just got a lot of hate for being unorthodox, but he kept with it, and he's been Player of the Year 7 times in his 20-year career, which is outstanding because there's hundreds and hundreds of players on the tour, and to be at the top year after year after year, and not let any of the hate get to him, I think is really inspiring.
When you have a bad bowl, how do you get over it for like the next round?
Yeah, bowling's uh tough in the sense that any bowler will tell you that the sport is about 20% physical and 80% mental. And the fact that a pro bowler only bowls a perfect game maybe about 0.2% of the time, and that's like professional bowlers only do about 0.2% of the time. So you just have to uh, go in with the mindset that you will not be perfect when you bowl. You will not get a strike every time. And if you leave a spare, you're not going to pick it up every single time. And so it's really just making sure that you don't let shot after shot after shot creep into your mind, and you really make sure that you take one shot at a time, one frame at a time, one game at a time, and you don't get ahead of yourself, because once you do, then the what ifs start rolling in, and then you start to tense up, and suddenly you're 80% of the game just becomes absolutely destroyed. And once you're gone, especially at the extremely competitive level, then you have no chance at competing.
What are some of your goals for your next year, both academic and sports?
Uh, I I'd really like to be on. So when I got recruited to bowl for Savannah College of Art and Design, it wasn't a guaranteed spot that I'd bowl every single time. I still have to walk in there every single practice with the expectation that I could either lose my spot on the team or gain a spot on the team. So I guess one of my biggest goals is to try and be on the varsity team, be on the travel team. There's so many good players on my team. They just came back from their third national championship in a row. So it's one of those things where I'm going in expecting to bowl against the best, and that's going to make me better. And I hope I can rise to the top and have some varsity playing time next year.
How do you balance the relationship between academics and sports?
That's a good question. I think bowling takes up pretty much uh all of my weekends. So it's just making sure that I'm just managing my time, and being aware of the fact that after I bowl, I'm not going to be not going to have the mental capacity to do any sort of homework. So it's just making sure I can get the stuff done when I can, because weekends are pretty much off for me, because I'm competing, and I have to be completely focused on bowling, because once something else creeps into my mind, then I'm not going to be at my best. So just making sure that I'm just managing my time super well. I think that's going to be one of my keys to balancing that.
What does a normal week look like for you in season?
Uh, I'm usually practicing. I practice two times a week. It's about yeah, 2 to 3 times a week. I'm practicing about 3 hours. So usually a practice for me will be like 5 to 10 minutes of just kind of getting all the way up to the foul line, and just kind of practicing releasing the bowling ball. And then I'll slowly work up to my full approach. And then I'll practice some spares for usually about half hour or 45 minutes. Just set up a couple pins and then try and knock those over. Uh, that's usually what a practice would look like for me. And I usually like I said, I compete about 2 to 4 times a month. So a lot of the times, most of my weekends are usually I'm bowling something. So I'm bowling probably 4 days a week on average for about 3 hours, and 2.5 hours for practice, and then the tournament's like 8 hours. So I'm bowling a lot.
What are some of the biggest obstacles you've encountered and how have you overcame them?
I had a really tough time a couple years ago, just being mentally tough, and I just get really hard on myself, and kind of the things that I mentioned earlier about letting past shots or past experiences creep into my mind. Uh, that was, and then yeah, pretty much middle of junior year, I'm kind of like December of 2022. I reached a pretty much I reached my breaking point with just how upset I was with my bowling. I felt like I wasn't bowling as good as I should be, and I just never really give myself grace. So pretty much the way I overcame that was just giving myself a much needed break, just trying to find a healthy relationship with the sport, because if you don't love what you're doing, then you shouldn't be obsessed with it if you don't love it. So I just had to rekindle that love for the game, and then yeah, that summer I ended up getting sixth at nationals. So I was so grateful for that, because I knew there was a chance that I could have quit, but I stuck with it. I gave myself time to heal, and I made the most of it. And I hope I can repeat that this summer.
Do you have a ritual you do every time you bowl, or
Yeah, so I think usually what we call it in bowling is your pre-shot routine. So it's just a way to keep everything the same. Bowling is all about repeatability, repeatability, repeatability. You have to make the same shot over and over and over and over again to be successful. So usually I have a complicated routine. So I go through a lot of my accessories that I have. So I'll usually wipe the bowling ball down. I'll usually dry my hand a little bit. I have a rosin bag as well as the little hand dryer thing that's always there. It's something that I do that I don't know a lot of other people do is I'll usually blow into my thumb hole. Like just like I don't know. It's just something I've started doing and it feels weird not to do it. So I just keep doing that. Um, but yeah, there is, if you talk to pretty much any bowler, they always have their pre-shot routine, something they always go through every single shot to make sure that they don't let their past shots influence the shot that they're about to bowl.
how has bowling helped you grow as a person?
Uh, Kind of a little bit what I mentioned earlier is bowling is all about uh bowling makes you realize that you're not perfect and that uh that's okay, right? It's okay to not throw a strike every shot. It's okay to not make every single spare. It's okay to not bowl a 300 every game. It's okay to not bowl a 200 every game. And I think that really translates well to life. Is you can't expect everything of yourself because at the end of the day, you are human, and you're designed to not be robotic. You're designed to have a little bit of wiggle room with everything you do. You're designed to not make the best decision every time. And so I think bowling really speaks a lot to the human condition and how we can either take it. You can either be frustrated that you are imperfect, or you can be grateful for that. And I think it's really beneficial to choose the latter.
What are your plans post bowling?
I mean, I want to say if I'm not bowling, like if I'm not on tour, I just I'd love to be in and around the sport. I'm going into film and media this fall, and so I'd love to just be around, just documenting bowling and making sure and just trying to make bowling as accessible to the greater uh just the greater population of the entire country because I think it is a really cool sport and is a sport that I think is just misunderstood. And I think with my project, Bring Back Bowling, I'm trying to kind of break down those barriers and those conflicts between bowlers and non-bowlers through the use of media and through the use of running a tournament. And so I hope that I can do the same as a career rather than just a senior project.
Do you think the sport of bowling is growing more and more, or
I really, really do, especially at the collegiate level. It's the fastest growing collegiate sport now more than ever. I mean, there's so many colleges that want to have bowling teams so they can offer more scholarship money, and I think it's a super fun sport, and um, I think the way that the PBA tour is starting to trend, I think there's it's making it more accessible for people, and more bowling alleys I think are going to pop up with the use of string pins. So they're making building bowling lanes cheaper, so that reduced costs for people, which will bring more people in. I think the sport is growing, and I think it will continue to grow, and I think it will rival golf in many ways. Just another tour sport that I think bowling can be so easily compared to, but it just isn't given the same amount of attention.
what advice would you give to other athletes trying to be recruited, whether bowling or other sports?
I think my biggest advice is just put yourself out there. Like it's really, really scary to send that email to that college, um, or send that email to the coach. But more times than not, they want more than you want them. And so I feel like if you go in with that mindset, it'll just it'll ease your nerves and make them seem a lot more approachable rather than just the overlords of UCLA or name a college. Um, Also create an email for all your spam that you're gonna get, especially sophomore junior year when you start submitting your test scores. That's something I wish I did because I just get so many spam emails that my real emails get lost in that. So those are my two pieces of advice.
All right. Well, thank you. I hope you have a good season next year, and thanks for
Thank
coming
you,
on.
Joey. Yeah, no problem.